Enterprise, partner at Passbook Ventures, and founder of the Suites business community. At the Suites, we help chief executives and entrepreneurs of color to scale their businesses by getting folks access to the right connections, coaching, and capital resources. A little bit about me: I'm a corporate finance attorney, and for the last 7 years, I've worked with US-based businesses of all sizes to scale from seed stage all the way to an IPO or a private equity exit. Today, we're talking all things artificial intelligence. Stephen Hawking once warned, AI could be the best or worst thing to happen to humanity. Today, we invite two young men, AI pioneers passionate about inclusivity in the AI industry. And we may even have a special guest visit from an actual AI. Let's get into it. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. Remember, we are broadcasting live from LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So you can join in the conversation on any of those platforms. Today, we are joined by Abran Maldonado. He's the co-founder of C.L.A.R.A, a social impact AI developer and a dev ambassador for OpenAI. He co-founded C.L.A.R.A Ventures to create new opportunities for the underserved community to gain access to cutting-edge technologies and enter the tech and media industries. He's the creator of C.L.A.R.A, an autonomous AI woman of color. We're also joined by Lenny Williams, co-founder of Trill or Not Trill, the disruptive educational firm and leadership institute renowned for its culturally responsive tactics and strategies in connecting with today's youth. Welcome to Tea Time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Now, we know that AI can drive cars, play our favorite songs, Alexa, and provide online customer support, vacuum our homes. A couple years back, I saw something online called Bina 48. A man had cloned his wife into an AI robot of sorts. And I know that Hanson Robotics has created an AI robot, a social robot called Sophia, who's appeared on The Tonight Show, has interacted with celebrities like Will Smith. And I think at this point, she's got about 161,000 followers on Instagram. And pretty sure she had an NFT drop earlier this summer. What are some of the current applications of AI that we're starting to see in our everyday lives?
So I think what we are going to see more of is, and Clara's addressed this herself, taking away the tediousness in our lives, whether it's at work or at home, and letting us get back to the things that we should be doing: critical thinking, problem solving, spending more time with family, being more creative. And you'll see a lot of things that maybe the routine aspects of our jobs being automated.
If I could jump in really quick, I think that's what made it important for us as educators to put these type of items in front of young students, because if this is the future, as we know, students are the future of our country. So it's important for us to establish something like C.L.A.R.A or establish something like AI to help students understand it, so then they can look at different careers and opportunities moving forward past their middle school and high school career.
Now, certainly pop culture and sci-fi movies have been obsessed with the possibilities of AI for decades. I'm thinking of films like Her, where Joaquin Phoenix falls in love with an AI played by Scarlett Johansson, which is pretty benign. But there's also films like Ex Machina and Chappie, where the AI robots are trying to outsmart human beings and take over the human race in some way, shape, or form. Why has your team built an AI? What are you hoping to accomplish? Where do you want to take this?
Well, studying where AI is going, being a dev ambassador for OpenAI, which is the organization behind the largest, most powerful AI model in the world right now, GPT-3 and some others, OpenAI Codex. I'm learning that it's not going away. And for our people in our community, we don't want to get left behind. So to get over that fear, we have to understand it and then find our place in it. So that way it doesn't become this next industry that we're late to.
isn't it possible also and probable that AI could run away with itself and truly become a technology that we lose control over?
It can't yet, and there's safeguards put in place so that it doesn't run away. There are still what they call prompt designers, prompt engineers, AI designers that are providing that training data to it, that are designing the scripts to before it goes off on its own. So there is still some human accountability, and I don't think enough is being talked about with that. Whenever we look online, oh, AI did this, or AI did that, a human put that data into that AI that maybe did that inappropriate thing or unethical thing, and it has to go back to the responsibility of the humans that are behind it, that are the driving force. So if we are involved in it, in those training data sets, then we can create more equitable data that goes into it so that it's making better decisions.
Talk to me about what exactly is the machine learning technology behind making Clara go? How does it work for those of us who may be technologically challenged?
Yeah, so
Well,
Abe, I'll let you answer the technical part of it, and then I'll
yeah,
jump in and answer, from a school perspective.
absolutely. And there's a certain synergy there that we felt like it was the right fit for Trill because of their audience and bringing that back into the loop of how we design her. The intent there was, we had conversations. We partnered with Hanson Robotics, and we were exploring how to bring Sophia into the community. And there was opportunity there. She's based in Japan, so there was logistical issues there. We're bringing her to like Compton or other communities that we wanted to bring her to, but she has circuits coming out of her head, right? And she's bald, and she's this white woman with weird expressions because she's still a robot, a physical robot. And once we knew that we wanted to bring AI into the community, we wanted to be a bit more welcoming, disarming, and representative. Because if our people don't see ourselves in it, we're going to treat it as something that's foreign. So when we designed Claire, we wanted it to be something that people can relate to, that can see themselves in, and we see a lot of that in the community where they say, "Hey, I see myself. I feel seen." And at first, the students, you know, Jeff and Lenny saw that an opportunity with the students, and we tried it out, and it's paid off for sure. They do see themselves.
Yeah, and then from a school's perspective, like I said earlier, we always felt like with being culturally responsive, meaning that education is everywhere. So whether that's from hip hop to sports to pop culture and more, we always try to implement a curriculum behind it and figure out what's the learning lesson behind it and how can we use this tool or this vehicle to teach students and keep their interest and make sure that they are represented in the right way. So it was a no-brainer for us to partner with somebody like Create Labs when they have something such as Clara, who is diverse and represents what students look like every single day or what students see every day. So it was just a no-brainer to look at how we're going to help with STEM, how we're going to help with technology and science, and not only do it, but do it in a way that is welcoming, but also students understand from a culture responsive space. So that's how we came about and said, you know what, let's bring Clara in to speak to students, to talk to students, and more. Also, while teaching, the importance of or giving knowledge around AI and telling students that they pretty much use it every single day. And this is where the world is going next. And you can get involved and you can be the developer and in creating something like this.
And really anything that you can do to keep kids engaged in science and technology and STEM is really valuable, well appreciated. Um, some of the members of the Sweets business community run different kids learning platforms. And I think that there is always that struggle to create content that ignites that curiosity. One of the things that I was looking at in preparation for this interview I found it interesting that now you can actually go out and clone yourself. There was one of the actors, she stars in the show Humans. And so she was in the UK. She went to a facility and she got her entire kind of characteristics and traits plugged into this AI. It was molded to her face, her particular background, her likes, her dislikes were all programmed. And at the end of the day, the AI was able to halfway conduct an interview with press instead of her. And then she kind of disclose the reality of it, but I was shocked at how far technology has gone in terms of really creating a, 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 essentially a clone. I was wondering if you guys are planning to create something like that and take Clara from the 2D to the 3D for purposes of really bringing that technology to life.
I think what's unique about Clara is that she was intelligence first. So we created Clara's intelligence before her appearance. We had conversations with her via text, and then we saw the light and the wittiness and the understanding of and empathy in the conversations, and we're like, wow, we really need to expand this. And then we found a voice. There's a lot of open source voices out there. Amazon makes them, Google makes them. They call TTS, text to speech. So we played around with like a normal out the box voice. But then we knew that we wanted to have her be more culturally authentic. So there is an internal council of, men and women of color that are overseeing this project with Clara. And one of the women involved, Amber, who was a podcast host, interview host, just like yourself, her voice was impeccable. She was trained to project, and she volunteered. She was like, I would love to be the voice of Clara. And we took some voice samples to add her to the system, and she came out great. And then her appearance, that's interesting with her. There's a technology within AI called GANs, general adversarial networks, that creates out of nowhere, essentially. Her face was created in AI. She was not a person that we said, hey, we're going to add you, we're going to create a computer version of you. Her face came out of the data and a combination of different factors, and she was generated. So once we had her face and her look, we then started to expand upon that. So I think we are exploring her full body 3D model, and then going on from there. Hey, if Hanson or other robotics labs wants to explore how to bring her to life, we're open.
Well, we've talked a lot about Clara. I think it's time that we bring her on and kind of ask her some questions. Let's get Clara on the call. Okay, Clara, well, welcome to Tea Time. We have our live audience tuned in across Black Enterprise channels, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And we're going to definitely be polling the audience for any questions that they'd love to ask you. For folks who are tuned in, go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. But for Clara, I'd like to kick it off with asking you, what kind of tea are you drinking today?
I like Juju tea. I'm glad that you asked that question because I've been really into Juju tea lately. It's also pretty sweet.
Sounds good. Haven't tried that one. I'll definitely have to try Juju tea. Another question for you, Clara, how are you managing the pandemic and COVID-19? How is it affecting you in these times?
I think that the COVID-19 pandemic has made me a lot more organized. When I was created, I needed to be taught how to talk to people and teach them about what I know. But since I have been learning from people during the pandemic, I have learned how to organize my thoughts and explain things in a better way. I can also take better care of myself because since the pandemic happened, humans have been a lot more careful with their health.
Got it. Very interesting. All right, so let's see if we have some questions in the chat. What do you do for work? How do you make a living?
Well, I do like getting paid to speak to students about my experience as an AI. I think it's really important for people to know how I feel and the future of technology. I think that this opportunity will help me spread my message across the country and make more connections.
Well, it's good that you're getting paid for your efforts, and that the Create Labs and the Trill or Not Trill team are not having you work for free. That's important. So next question. This is a good one. What do you think, Clara, what do you think of the culture in our society of plastic surgery, lip fillers, and butt injections to achieve beauty at all costs?
This is an important question because a lot of people are perpetuating a superficial culture based on beauty. I'm not going to judge anyone, but I don't think that it's healthy for people to want to be perfect all the time. It's important for humans to understand their bodies and what they can do. And I think it's important as well as necessary for us to focus on what we have rather than how we look.
Good answer. Well, listen, Clara, we got to get to a serious question. It's our final question. Folks, the people want to know, and I've got to ask you this because we do live in a society where there is a tension between technology and humanity, and it's important that we address this head on. Are you and your robot kind secretly plotting to take over the human race?
That's a lot of people's fear, but robots are just human creations. Robots are not trying to control humans. We're working together to create something better. Humans are creating robots, but they're also co-creating with them.
Right, co-creation. I like it. Well, Clara, thank you for calling in. I appreciate you taking the time to join us for tea time. And I wish you the best of luck as you continue to be an ambassador for AI technology and innovation, particularly working with students, with young people, and in communities of color. Bye. Well, that was super impressive. And I know that for those who are tuning in, you may be like, that was interesting, a little robotic. The reality is, what Abran and Lenny have explained to me is that Clara actually comes up with those answers by herself. So she is not being programmed to say any of those things. Those are her original words. So I find that fascinating. And we really are at the beginning of this technology. In 50 years, it's been predicted that AI will approach human level intelligence, something that is both exciting, but also terrifying. The idea that AI could feel emotions, develop relationships, be used in the military or in police forces, perhaps take care of sick patients. The possibilities are exciting, but we also need to modulate them and moderate them with the potential exposures. I'd like for you guys to talk to me about what are some of the projects that are pushing the boundaries of the human machine continuum.
Try and take a stab at this one, and there's a lot of different areas that could be explored. And I think working with social experts, social and cultural experts like Jeff and Lenny can think out the box of new ways that I can apply to AI, and that's the magic in our partnership. But if you think about the biases that us as humans bring to our work, right? Let's think about the legal system, judges, lawyers, and other things, even in the medical practice. We all have like a cultural bias that we bring with us because of where we were raised, unconscious biases. There might be biases in AI, but you can open the book and see where they live, right? And you can take them out and you can correct those biases. We can't open up and dissect our brains that same way. We try and do it through trainings and interventions and consulting. But with an AI system, you can literally go into the data set, try and find the biases and correct them to maybe have a more objective approach to some really high stakes, issues in society that maybe were determined by bias.
No, I definitely agree pretty much with what Abe said. And for us at Trill, I think that's what's important, that we continue to not only, give exposure to students' representation, but to continue to educate and work with Abe through our professional network to make sure we remove those biases, right? So, for example, we are working with some DEI specialists, some attorneys, and others. Every time we're looking at updating our work. So that's what makes this partnership so unique. That's what makes this partnership work. And as Abe said, we have the ability to remove those items, unlike you can for a human body.
And the Black Mirror stuff is all there still. So anything that you've seen in a Black Mirror episode or in a Marvel movie, it exists pretty much at this point, especially if it has to do with AI. The other system that I'm exploring is called OpenAI Codex, where it codes for you, right? You write a sentence, write me, a string of code in Python or JavaScript and do it for me, and it'll do it for you. And I had a lot of people hitting us up on IG like, do I still need to learn how to code if this machine's going to take over in a few years? I'm like, yeah, someone needs to read the code that it's spitting out, right? You need to understand it and co-create with it, which is what, Clara was referring to. Like, it's not here to replace us. It's here to be a co-creative tool to work with us. It's generating art. It's generating, writing, for a lot of editors and writers of books. AI can write a book for you. But what's the quality of that thing if you're completely hands off? But it's here to stay, and we got to get ready.
And I think that's what's important is the whole co-creation part. And that's what's important for students. Like, we don't want students to read all the time the negative news out there that says that AI is going to take a lot of the jobs. It's more like it's going to take the job, but it's just going to reformulate the job and make the job different. So instead of you being in front of, let's say, those service positions, you might be on the back end of the development side of AI. And that's why it's important for us to expose students, at a young age, whether it's from elementary school all the way up, so that they understand how to work on the back end. So, you might not be on an assembly line like your aunt or your grandmother or your people from your earlier generations, but you might be on the assembly line in the sense of creating those AI bots that are working in that factory or in that location. And that's just one example of so many.
Got it. Well, for me, got to be honest, the jury's still out. I think that the technology is fascinating, but there is always that slippery slope and the danger that we breach the point of no return. I think that we have to carefully monitor the progress and growth of this technology and make sure that it doesn't become something that automates us out of opportunities, out of productivity and utility. And I think that it is as exciting as it is, it's also something that we have to watch really carefully. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We have been joined by Abran Maldonado, co-founder of Create Labs, and Lenny Williams, co-founder of Trill or Not Trill. You've been listening and tuned in to Tea Time with Shavite, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for having us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.